The situation now in Israel, and Israeli defense forces have carried out a targeted raid against Hamas in Gaza as they edge ever closer to that promised ground invasion. Meanwhile, top negotiators in Qatar have said they're increasingly optimistic about a hostage breakthrough. Currently, over 200 Israelis are still being held by Hamas. Qatar's Minister for Foreign Affairs also acts as a senior negotiator, has said further hostage releases could be possible, but only if the Israeli bombardment stops. Let's get more on this now with our man on the ground live in Jerusalem, TalkTV's war correspondent, Tom Mutch. Good to see you again, Tom. What is the latest there today?
So, as you said, the hostage negotiations are one of the most critical things going on at the moment. In effect, they're a major block to a potential ground invasion. It's difficult to see how a ground invasion could go ahead without killing a large number of the hostages effectively. So that acts as a sort of political brake on the government here. Now, there's been another development that I thought was quite interesting yesterday, and that was when Joe Biden came out and was talking about the issue of civilian casualties in Gaza. Now, this has been a very, very hot wire topic. The Gazan Health Ministry have said it's 7,000, yet Biden has actually said that he doesn't necessarily trust those numbers. Now, pointing out that they are coming effectively from someone that was from an organization controlled by Hamas. That said, the United Nations have previously thought that those casualty figures in previous conflicts between Israel and Gaza have been broadly borne out by later investigations. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on, whether those casualty figures, as I said, standing at about 7,000 now, are reliable or whether they're inflated. We simply can't know either way at the moment because we really don't have that great insight into what is going on in Gaza under the fog of war.
And it is that question that isn't going away about this ground invasion, Tom. I mean, we keep hearing that different countries, in this instance, Qatar, stepping in and making noises around that. How are things likely to unfold in the coming days, and how pivotal are Qatar to this situation?
So I thought what had happened with the limited ground incursion, a sort of a lightning raid with tanks and special forces, could actually be some sort of a model if Israel don't want to go all in and try and effectively capture the city. Perhaps they could almost redo the idea of a ground invasion to look something like a more limited series of raids, like the ones that we saw with tanks onto specified Hamas positions, that obviate the need to really commit all your forces into an operation, which was, as we've seen in previous urban conflicts, could go seriously, seriously wrong. Now, Qatar is a very interesting player here, simply because they're in some ways sometimes seen as like a Switzerland of the Middle East, a semi-neutral country where deals can be done with your adversaries. We know they host top Hamas leadership. And actually, during the United States negotiations with the Taliban, they hosted the Taliban Public Relations Office, where a lot of the Doha deal that the Trump administration did was actually done. So they are effectively one of the few parties that is to some extent trusted by both sides to work out a deal, whether that's a deal on hostages or a deal on access to aid, or even a potential deal about winding down the bombardment and the casualties that's causing in Gaza right now.
Interesting few days ahead, I'm sure. Tom, thank you as ever, Tom Mutch, our man over there in Israel.